So humor me for a minute. What happens when you take an orange and you squeeze it, you put a lot of pressure into it, and hopefully you get some orange juice. Now let's take a lemon, same basic principle. You squeeze it, apply a lot of pressure to it. You get lemonade? No, you don't get lemonade. You get lemon juice, which is sour, and of course orange juice being sweet. So pressure reveals what's inside the fruit. Now think about financial pressures, loss of income, bills, pressures from a boss, conflict with a coworker, tension with your spouse, frustration with your children, the strain of health issues. The list goes on and on, even just as simple as a sleepless night. You're tired, you're exhausted, that word stress. Who hasn't felt stressed at some point in time? The result of pressures, we typically struggle with being anxious and being angry. The natural reaction, of course, is to say, well, those people or those external circumstances are what is causing my anxiety or my anger. And it certainly can feel like that, but they only really reveal what's inside. Those pressures of people or circumstances only really reveal what's inside of us. And Jesus kind of said it like this in Matthew 12:34, "For the mouth speaks from the overflow of the heart." And so what oftentimes comes out of us, or our responses, is really an overflow of what's really inside of us. And so when we face pressures, it either reveals something sweet or it can reveal something sour. We either respond right or we respond wrong. We either worry or we either trust God. We either get angry or we respond, hopefully, in love. So what we want to do is just provide some practical help for, in essence, sweet responses to life's pressures. And when we're feeling anxious and angry, how can we respond in such a way that ultimately pleases God?
And maybe some of you out there think, well, I don't really struggle with anxiety or anger. It's a pretty tough world out there, and I think we can find our anxiety and anger in our what-ifs in life. Think of some of these things. What if I fall out of love with my spouse? What if my kids aren't happy, successful, and good citizens? What if people don't like me? What if my cold is more than a cold? I'm sure you can identify with that right now. What if my career doesn't go as planned? See, I begin to carry out those what-ifs in my mind. Imagine this. So I hear that cough and I get on Google, right? I Google it, and now I have myself having lung cancer, and I'm pretty much on my way out. I worry, I'm anxious. What if my child doesn't pass 6th grade math class? Then I start following that line of thinking throughout the day and go, oh, they're not going to be able to go to U of M if they get a B in math class, and then they're not going to be happy, right? Or maybe it's that my spouse isn't going to love me anymore. And so, what am I going to do? How am I going to provide for myself? I need a job. Maybe I need to start exercising more so I can land myself another spouse. Maybe it's like this. If I think people don't like me, I begin to obsess over conversations. I view people as not liking me. I am going to be friendless, and I'm going to die a lonely person. You see how anxiety lives in our what-ifs? It's hard not to be anxious in a dangerous world. And the world is full of things that threaten us all the time. Sometimes we don't see our anxiety for what it is, and it's in our what-ifs. What about anger? Do you ever replay conversations in your mind? Maybe a conflict, a difference of opinion with somebody, and that person did you wrong? Do you make a judgment that they are wrong? You repeat the conflict to someone else? Does bitterness start taking a corner in your heart? Bitterness is a form of anger, and I'm sure you can identify with that. Do you ever not like a situation you find yourself in? Maybe like right now. Maybe it's being cooped up with the kids. Maybe it's not being able to be with other people. Maybe it's you're angry because you're an essential worker. Maybe you're angry because you're not an essential worker. You don't like what's going on in your life and you become angry. Maybe you don't like what your government's doing. Maybe you don't like what your leaders are doing, and you start rehearsing that in your mind. Do you start grumbling and complaining? That is a form of anger. So not only are we guilty of anxiety, we're also guilty of anger. What about this? Do you ever tell your kids you get tired of telling them to pick up the toys in the house and all the things around? I can identify with that, and I have been doing this. Do you get agitated with your school situation because you have to study online? Do you get irritated with your spouse when they're not as loving as you want them to be? I am mad and I'm not getting what I want. I am irritated and I am angry, because irritation is a form of anger. Maybe none of these apply to you. Maybe you're sitting there going, I don't really do those things. That's not the way that I am. Maybe you're more a laid back type of person. Maybe you're more passive. But what about that person in your life that made you mad in the past and you no longer talk to them? Using avoidance to deal with people, avoiding others when you're mad, is a form of anger. You see, you and I will be faced with things that we don't like in the world, and right now there's probably a lot of things that we don't like, and we're angry. But God has a better way for us to live. He has a way to handle it. So when we're squeezed, pleasant things come out of us.
So this Wednesday, May 6th, 8 p.m., not 8 a.m., 8 p.m., we are hoping to host a Zoom meeting. So we will provide a link for you to be able to sign up, and a link for the Zoom. It'll be a bit of participation too. We hope that you can use the chat box to be able to respond, maybe ask some questions. We'll be having an informal conversation, dialogue, discussion, looking at, of course, important passages and discussing what does the Bible say about anxiety, what does it say about anger, and how can we grow in our responses, and hopefully again, have responses that are sweet and ultimately be good for us and good for others, and ultimately that pleases and glorifies God. So join us. We look forward to it.